Welcome to the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast, presented by the Beef Cattle Research Council, the most popular content from beefresearch.ca, available on the go. Before we get into today's episode, a quick message from the BCRC. The objective of harvesting any type of forage for storage is to preserve feed resources at their nutritional peak in order to provide winter feed for livestock when grazing is not feasible or accessible. It is essential to harvest forage at the appropriate time, based on nutritional quality, forage yield, and weather conditions, and then to store it properly to reduce losses. Feed is the major input cost in cattle production. Therefore, producers must evaluate the cost of production for all storage forage systems. To learn more about preserving and storing forages, click the link in the show notes. This episode is titled, Tips for Starting Lightweight Calves on Feed. Many factors need to be considered when preparing to feed lightweight calves. These calves often face health and nutritional hurdles as they are weaned and transitioned to a backgrounding diet. Furthermore, these hurdles may even be higher during drought years. Although many regions of Canada received rainfall this spring, there are still areas that are experiencing moderate to severe drought conditions. The following tips and considerations can help get lightweight calves started off on the right foot. Dry pastures shortchange calves. Forage from drought-stricken pastures will not have the same quality as forage in a normal year. Moisture-stressed or overly mature forages are often deficient in energy and protein, as well as vitamin A, E, and possibly D. Selenium and copper deficiencies may also be concerns in some areas. If water sources are low due to evaporation, the salts and minerals will be concentrated in animals' drinking water too. Water quality can increase the risk of some mineral toxicities, and higher salt levels in the water may also reduce the consumption of free choice minerals, resulting in a mineral deficiency. Young, growing calves have higher nutrient requirements, so nutrient toxicities or deficiencies can impact them more than mature cows. Nutrient challenges associated with forage and water will be carried into the corral after weaning. Talking to a nutritionist is particularly valuable if you are located in a drought-affected region. They can interpret your feed and water lab test reports, help you understand the current nutritional status of your calves, determine what they'll need to consume in the months ahead, and help develop strategies to economically cover the gaps. Your veterinarian can also collect blood samples from a subset of your calves to check for acute mineral and vitamin deficiencies. Weaning may be harder on young, lightweight calves. Weaning is stressful in normal years and may even be more of a challenge when calves are weaned early. Consider using low-stress weaning methods to help calves transition to dry feed more quickly and reduce the risk of illness. If feasible, keep cows and calves together for the calves' first few days in a new pen. Cows will help calves find water, adjust to the new ration, and become comfortable in their new environment. Make every bite count. Transitioning weaned calves to a new feeding program is key to managing or even reversing nutrient deficiencies they may have developed on pasture before weaning. Calves might be reluctant to eat an unfamiliar ration for the first few days, but top-dressing the feed with a palatable supplement containing high levels of vitamins, mineral, protein, and energy can help. If they're not consuming much feed, increase the proportion of the supplement that is top-dressed to make sure they benefit from the concentrated nutrition the supplement provides. As overall intake increases, decrease the amount of the supplement provided. Work with a qualified nutritionist to have your feeds tested and rations balanced. Just like pasture, growing conditions and stage of maturity of the feeds harvested for feedlot use will be different in a drought year than in a normal year. The nutrient content of each feed needs to be addressed separately to balance rations that will work at different stages of animal growth and different weather conditions. Last year's feed test won't apply to this year's feeds, and book values won't apply to alternate feeds. The lack of hay might even mean that your rations will contain a blend of feeds that are unfamiliar to you or your calves. For example, a variety of salvage crop residues, weeds, and byproducts like screenings, canola meal, DDGS, straw, and other alternative feeds. Using a variety of feeds may be the only economical option, but it will certainly make feed testing and ration formulation more complicated. These feeds will all have different energy, protein, vitamin, mineral, and anti-nutritional factors than traditional hay, silage, or feed grains. Feed tests can be based on near-infrared spectroscopy, or NIRS, or wet chemistry. Traditional wet chemistry is important for minerals. This is more costly than NIRS, but the information it provides is valuable. For example, the high levels of sulfur in canola or water may bind up copper or selenium from elsewhere in the diet. Newly weaned calves may already be deficient in copper if your cattle come from a copper deficient or sulfur abundant area of the country. Having an accurate estimate of how much sulfur is present will determine whether or how much copper needs to be supplemented and the most cost-effective way to supplement it. A selenium injection at weaning can temporarily correct deficiencies until the dietary mineral supplement has had time to restore adequate levels. Drought-stressed cereal green feed, particularly that is grown on manured soil, may contain high levels of potassium that need to be considered and potentially counterbalanced. Working with your veterinarian and nutritionist can help identify and correct problems early, before they become larger and more costly to fix. Potential problems in your calves may also highlight deficiencies or toxicities in the cow herd or bull battery that you may not otherwise recognize. Feed tests are critically important, but they won't tell you everything. Your nutritionist may be aware of some potential nutritional or animal health concerns that aren't easily tested for and suggest ways to avoid them. For example, taking a big picture look at both the water and the feed your calves are consuming can help prevent cumulative toxicity from sulfates or nitrates. Compounds such as oxalates from kochia are difficult to test for. Nitrates, ergot, and mycotoxins can be tested for, but careful feed formulation and management is critical to cope with them safely. Remember that your nutritionist and veterinarian are your support team. They will each have unique expertise, insights, and complementary skills to help cope with the challenges your calves are facing this year. Cattle feed is rarely tested for B vitamins due to synthesis from rumen microbes. But B vitamin deficiencies can still be caused by high dietary sulfur levels or by ruminal acidosis, grain overload. Both of these factors need to be considered. Some water sources may have high sulfur levels this year, which can lead to polio. Successfully starting calves on feed is hard, even in a good year. Starting newly weaned calves on feed is challenging in good years, even for professionals. The additional stress of early weaning, nutritional challenges, and air quality can significantly increase the risk of respiratory disease in these calves. Good nutrition is essential to ensure the animals respond to vaccinations fully. If calves were nutritionally stressed on pasture, their immune status may be compromised, and vaccines may not provide full protection. Proactively work with your veterinarian to develop a solid preventative health program, as well as an emergency response plan in the event of an unexpected and significant outbreak of disease. Pre-weaning vaccination programs are an excellent way to help maximize the calf's ability to respond to vaccines. If you are retaining ownership, you will also retain the benefit of this optimal vaccine program. Heat stress reduces feed intake, which slows gains and can compromise immunity. Misting sprinklers may help reduce heat stress, along with access to shade or a wind fence. Sprinklers should not be used in pens during midday as they can increase relative humidity and accidentally increase the heat load on cattle. Access to abundant, fresh, clean water is critical to maintain health and welfare, encourage intake, and avoid heat stress. Consider setting up additional water troughs to ensure all animals can always access adequate water. There's been a lot of air quality index warnings this summer due to wildfire smoke. Smoke and dust aren't good for the human respiratory tract, and they likely don't benefit cattle either. It is hard to know to what degree smoke and dust may increase the risk of respiratory disease in calves, but it's doubtful that it'll make the transition into the feedlot any easier. There's not much we can do about smoke, but we can try to minimize dust. Freshly weaned calves, especially abruptly weaned calves, pace a lot. This creates even more dust in dry conditions. Removing loose dirt in pens is critical for dust control. Spreading straw or wood shavings and setting up a sprinkler can also help. When considering the expense of working with nutritionists and veterinarians, remember that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Investing in good veterinary and nutritional services help to mitigate losses or turn a profit. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can find all relevant links and information at beefresearch.ca or in the show notes. The Beef Cattle Research Council is funded by the Canadian Beef Cattle Checkoff and strives for excellence in the production of Canadian beef, cattle, and forage through research, innovation, and extension. Tune in every Tuesday as the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast delivers straightforward insights, expert information, and a wealth of practical knowledge for Canadian beef producers. Subscribe now.